This is the Sattler Files.
A kiss, a long embrace, a fond farewell should be personal. That's why Purslow Funerals allow you to remember the life of your loved ones in a way that truly reflects their individual character. It's the difference that makes every goodbye unique. For more information about planning a special goodbye, visit purslowfunerals.com.au, because every goodbye is different.
This is the Sattler Files.
Welcome back to the Sattler Files, and joining me in the studio at the moment is Daniel McKeague from Purslow Funerals. G'day, Daniel.
Good morning, Murray.
Look, we talk about all sorts of things that relate to, we call the segment Lifting the Lid, of course, but we talk about all sorts of things that relate to death and dying. And, of course, what's been in the news of recent times is this horrible thing in Orlando in Florida, where I think the current death toll is at 52?
53,
53,
I think, this morning.
Is it? Okay. Either which way, it's an absolutely disastrous number, and I cannot believe that, you know, once again we're confronted with this on our news bulletins and one thing and another. We've also covered grief. I mean, in previous segments on this program, but goodness me, grief would be unbelievable because it would affect the whole community, wouldn't it? Not just the people that are immediate family of the victims, but it would affect the whole community, surely.
Look, we see it all the time when a celebrity passes away. But in these type of circumstances where you've got a major tragedy, of somebody coming through and, demoralising a whole town, really, with one shooting, then you find that the whole community, the whole country, and, the world grieve. So we've got to be able to talk about the opportunities for people to be able to express that grief. So we do it. We see people obviously have put together makeshift memorials. The cities are allowed to be able to put up lighting, those type of things. And you find that, we come together as a community when these type of things happen, where we should be coming more of doing it a little bit more regularly as to even just, normal family funerals, coming together and, allowing people to be able to, grieve effectively and to be able to show them support and ongoing support as things go through. Daniel,
the act of these makeshift memorials, if you like, where people put flowers down and all of that sort of thing, is that part of the grieving process?
It is. It gives them somewhere to be able to go. It's a little bit like memorials at cemeteries. People have somewhere to go. They can go and speak to the people. They can go and get their emotions out in some form of way. And that will, help the community come together. And it'll also help any individuals that have been struck by tragedy to be able to really give themselves an opportunity to be able to say goodbye or to be able to try and understand why these type of things happen. And
of course, there are a couple of different ways. I mean, that was a terribly violent end for those poor people that were involved in that. But I guess that the passing of a celebrity for whatever reason, or somebody high profile, not necessarily a celebrity, but somebody that everybody knows, is a bit different because it's not violent, is it? Do you think that there is a difference in the way people grieve, or do they just grieve for the fact that they've lost someone that is important in their life? In some way.
Quite often it comes down to, sudden death. You ask a lot of questions, why? Where someone who's possibly passed away after an illness, you've had a little bit of a chance to grieve with that person and to be able to speak to that person and let them know your thoughts and your love and your care and all of those type of things as they're going through an illness, where you don't get that opportunity when something like this happens and it's very, very sudden.
Yeah, because, I think probably the biggest makeshift flower memorial I can ever remember seeing was the one when Princess Diana was killed in that the accident in the tunnel in Paris. That was just extraordinary, huge. And another big one was, of course, the Lindt Cafe siege in Sydney in the not too far distant past. And a lot of people sort of saw that as, something that they affected them deeply. And so they started these makeshift memorials and as part of their grieving process, I guess.
And look, it once again, it's giving a town or, people that are in the near vicinity to be able to come together, to be able to share their stories about, what had happened, or share their stories about the persons or the people that have passed away. So, makeshift memorials, are as significant as, cemetery memorials or, ashes placements and those type of things, because it does give you, somewhere to be able to go and express your grief and to be able to talk to others.
Yeah. And on a smaller scale, we all see these little white crosses on the road with somebody's name on it and that sort of thing, and maybe a little flower or something of that nature. And that's equally as important, isn't it, to those that are and more personal, of course, but for those that are directly affected, that is somewhere for them to go as well, where that life was taken.
And sudden death is always very hard to be able to understand.
Yeah.
And, everybody's going to grieve slightly differently. So you can never really, tell a person that they're going to be grieving for 1 week, 1 month, 6 months, 6 years. But as long as they're giving themselves the opportunity to be able to grieve, then they'll finally start to work themselves through it.
And as a funeral director, as you deal with this all the time, when something like the Orlando massacre, because that's what it was a massacre, when something like that happens, does that affect you? Or when I say you, I mean someone like a funeral director or the people that have to deal with the aftermath of this sort of thing?
Look, it's certainly not an easy thing to be able to deal with. All death has, some tragic part of it. And as staff are given the opportunity to be able to use counsellors that we have available, and the employment assistance program is open to even their families.
Oh, really? Okay.
So if they're having a difficult time with something that they've seen or experienced at work, they can debrief with us, they can debrief with their colleagues, but they've also got the opportunity to be able to debrief with a counsellor.
Fantastic.
And to be able to work that through. And if they're taking that home for any reason, they can then extend that to their, wife and kids to be able to, access that counselling as well.
Fantastic. Oh, that's really good, because, it would be one thing to deal with somebody who's died of natural causes and it's just a normal end of life, if you like, but an entirely different thing to deal with somebody who's been whose life has ended suddenly and in violent circumstances. I would have thought that would be would affect me, I think, far more than just somebody in a normal end of life situation.
I think every funeral director has had that experience at some point in time, where they've had to be able to deal with working as well as doing their own family's funerals or their own friends' funerals.
Right, yes, of course.
Or had that really tragic situation where they're having to really try and support family and communities as they go through.
It is such an important part about it, and I know we've covered a lot about grief in the in preceding programs that we've done together, but it is just so important, isn't it, to make sure that you don't ignore it, that you do get it out, that you do deal with it, and you don't try and lock it away somewhere.
I always say it will get you in the end, because you can delay it, but eventually it'll come around. So if you're allowing yourself to be able to grieve effectively, telling stories and those type of things of the person who's passed away, it does become a lot more effective than just saying, well, okay, the person's passed away and, I'm getting on with life.
Yes, yeah.
Because there's a lot that sits in the background.
It does indeed. And that, I think is so important, that because we've also mentioned that after a funeral, people don't know what to do with the bereaved person, do they? They don't know how to approach talking to them. They don't know how to start the conversation, if you like. And it can be a bit daunting for some people, can't it?
So everybody tends to be there for the funeral. But after a few weeks, people then, when contacting, someone who's had a loss, really don't know how to start the conversation, as you said, but also you find that people that are grieving will tell the same story several times, and you just need to be able to have a listening ear rather than saying, "Oh, I've heard that before."
That's right. What else have you got? Yeah, that is important, isn't it? To be able to just, regardless of the number of times that it's been told, it obviously is a story that they're very passionate about, very sort of it's front of mind and that sort of thing. So everybody deals with it just a little bit differently, don't they?
It does, and I think if we don't profess to be counsellors, and we would generally recommend people go to professionals, and we can supply lists of great grief counsellors that can support people during that period of time. But we also, being local funeral directors, we're part of the community, so we need to be able to support those people and still have some contact with the families that we serve.
Yes, of course.
For as long as they want us to be there. So quite often we'll have people just drop in, have a cup of coffee, weeks and months and years after we've done a funeral service for them,
right?
Because they've built a relationship with the funeral director.
Well, I mean, that's a testament to the service that Perslow's provide, isn't it, really? Because if they feel comfortable enough to do that, that's really amazing.
Because you do become part of the family, to an extent, and a good funeral director learns a lot about that family unit when putting together funeral arrangements, and that's part of how we make things very personal. And we learn about the deceased. We learn about their wants and their needs, and also what the family are wanting and needing to be able to get you through that.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that it's a timely reminder, isn't it, when something like the Orlando massacre, and I use that term because I just feel so strongly about it, that grieving is part of life in many ways, isn't it? Although it's a bit of a paradox in some ways, but it is part of life, isn't it? Everybody's going to grieve sometime for something.
Grief doesn't have to even relate to funerals. I mean, grief can be loss of relationship, loss of financial independence, loss of health, and people grieve about a whole pile of things. So if we learn what the process of grief is and allow ourselves to be able to become okay with it, we deal with situations that come up in our life all the time a little bit better.
Do you find that women are better at it than perhaps men are? We always talk about women having the maternal instinct, the mothering type of thing. Do you find that they are better at it than men? At grieving, I mean.
And look, I wouldn't think so. I think nowadays people are a lot more open.
Yeah.
And we've been saying for years to men it's all right to cry. So I think you find that men are starting to get on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
And allow themselves to be able to express emotion.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing too, because as you so rightly point out, it'll get you in the end, because sooner or later something will happen that will trigger it, and then you'll have to start dealing with it and hopefully getting some counselling, because locking things away is a bad idea.
Look, a lot of the time people don't require counselling. It's only if they've really lost in their way, and by just talking it through and talking with someone, you can grieve just as well with talking to a friend as you can a counsellor, because you're getting it out. You're talking about it.
That's the key, isn't it? Getting it out and talking about it and in whatever way, dealing with it so that it's not something that you've bottled up and is about to explode your head.
No, you don't feel guilt over.
No, that's right. And of course, that's a whole other part of the grieving process, isn't it? What ifs? What if I'd done this, or what if I hadn't done that? Is that different, do you think, than just somebody grieving for the loss of someone, where there's perhaps, let's say, a child involved, and if I'd have done this, if I'd have got him to the doctor sooner, or if I'd have done that, I really feel for people that have that happen to them in their life.
And unfortunately, that's tragedy in itself. And we're always going to doubt ourselves. We're human, so we're going to doubt the fact that if we'd done this or if we'd done that.
Yeah.
But on the other side of things, that's also being able to understand grief. And once you realise that you don't really have to understand all parts of what ifs, then you tend to, work through it a little bit better.
Yeah, of course. But it's nonetheless a tragedy, and I guess that people grieve in their own way to, a day of maybe feeling sad about it and then getting on with their life. But the closer you get to it, the more it affects you, doesn't it?
Look, a good funeral service is a good start. If you're able to farewell somebody in a really good manner, and that shares those experiences and shares that person's life, then you'll find that you start to work through the grief process a little bit quicker than if you were to just not have a committal, or just don't go to the cemetery or don't have a memorial service and those type of things. You're still doubting yourself for a long time. Of course you are. So it is, and for those people that are even thinking about not having a funeral and just getting buried and all of that, or cremated or whatever, don't do it. Yeah, make sure that, because there's people left behind that need to do that. We certainly, work with our families in being able to discuss the consequences of not having a funeral. And, it's becoming a little bit more prevalent. We're following the States a little bit with people not deciding to be able to have funerals and just getting on with it. But, we're out there actively letting people know now, what we've been able to learn for those that, haven't had that chance to be able to say farewell. In this particular case, of course, the people that have been murdered in this tragic set of circumstances, those people at least have something or something to say goodbye to. I find it very difficult to understand how people can react when they have no body, they have no remains, they have nothing. Like, for example, those that have been lost in aeroplane tragedies of recent times, where they know that they're gone, but there's just nothing left. How do they deal with their grief, and what do they do? Is a memorial service something that is good enough, or is that really not enough? Look, it's probably not enough, but it's a good start. So we were talking earlier about makeshift memorials. Having a little bit of a shrine in a house, or having somewhere to go that that person really enjoyed and loved. And going to those places will give you the opportunity to start that process. Having a funeral service as such that expresses that person's life, is inclusive of the community that is around, and sharing that person's experiences, will start that process. Yeah, of course. And we've seen in recent times, of course, the victims of war being brought back from Vietnam after, goodness me, 50 years or something ridiculous like that. And it means so much, doesn't it, to be able to finally be able to say goodbye. We were lucky enough to be involved and privileged to be involved with that. Were you? Perslow's did? Perslow's wow. Did. We did the one Western Australian's funeral at the War Service Cemetery at Karrakatta. Plus we were involved with Invocare and Guardian funerals in being able to repatriate all of them through to Australia and work with the armed forces and those type of things to be able to do that. We supplied, all of the hearses that you saw on the... And there were a lot of them, weren't there? Goodness me. And it was very, very well done. Yeah. And I think if we can really show some solidarity, that's how we can do it. Yeah, indeed. Oh, look, I was touched by that. I really was. I thought that was a most amazing thing to have happen after all these years, and it's and it shows great respect to the fallen, doesn't it? It does. Yeah.
Okay, perhaps we move on to something a little bit lighter.
That'd be great.
Purslows and Invocare are involved with the Anglicare blanket appeal, aren't they, in a very big way?
We are. This is our 4th year. I think maybe even 5th year that we've been doing it. And what we open our funeral homes up, and we work with the community newspapers and those type of things in advertising the fact that, if people have got spare blankets in the back of their cupboard, which
almost everybody does.
Yeah. That if they bring them into one of the funeral homes and donate them, we'll match them and go and buy, a blanket as well.
Fantastic.
So, we've so far probably, this year had a couple of hundred blankets donated over the last couple of weeks.
Wonderful? Yeah.
And we're hoping that we can get that up to probably 1,000 blankets for needy families and for the homeless and all of those type of things, so that we can then match them for blanket
for blanket. That's fantastic. And Anglicare do the distribution of the donated goods and the goods that Purslows put up.
They do, and they're a great organisation, and they work very strongly with us in being able to make sure that the blankets are going to the needy families and the required families that really need them.
Do they accept things like doonas and comforters and that sort of stuff, or is it really just blankets because they're a bit easier to handle?
No, they accept all of those type of things.
Okay.
And we, have some very generous people in the community, and that will go out and buy blankets even if they don't have them and bring them in.
Is that right?
And donate them to us.
Yeah.
And then we'll match them.
Yeah.
And we try and get them distributed as quickly as possible this time of year.
Oh.
And we run the campaign for about 3 months every year.
Yeah. Well, we really do have some wintry weather with us at this time, and it doesn't look like getting warmer anytime soon. So anybody out there that's got spare blankets, go and have a look in the back of the linen press or in the box at the foot of your bed and see if you've got any spares there that you could take into Purslows, any Purslows funeral home, and they'll match it 1 for 1 and do some real good for the homeless people in Perth.
Yes, no, thanks very much, Murray, and I really appreciate the plug there because I think it's something, along with our other community campaigns that we run all year, is something that's very worthwhile. We also do the Lions Eye for Sight and the Lions Hearing. So we've now donated, almost 750,000 pairs of glasses to third world countries.
Goodness me.
Through Lions, and to be able to, help and support those. And a lot of people have, a whole drawer full next to their bed if they've worn glasses for a lot of years.
Guilty.
And so, if you're bringing some blankets in and if you've got spare glasses, or an old hearing aid, bring that in with you as well.
We'll certainly do that. Daniel, look, it's a great community project. All of them are fantastic community projects, and congratulations for running it yet again this year. And I urge everyone out there to support it in whatever way they can.
Thanks, mate.
Daniel, it's been wonderful having you in with us today. Thanks so much for taking the time to do it, and we look forward to catching up with you again really soon.
Good on you. Have a good day.
More on the Sattler Files very shortly.
This is Sattler Files.
A kiss, a long embrace, a fond farewell should be personal. That's why Purslow funerals allow you to remember the life of your loved ones in a way that truly reflects their individual character. It's the difference that makes every goodbye unique. For more information about planning a special goodbye, visit perslowfunerals.com.au, because every goodbye is different.
This is the Sattler Files.